Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Ranked, where I climb the online series 10 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. Today we're using the Eternatus team that 2016 World Champion Wolfe Glick built and piloted to get to number 1 on the ladder with just a couple of days ago. It's a really strong team, and while the Pokemon are relatively standard, there's some really cool nuances in team building that I want to talk about. So first of all, congrats to Wolfe for reaching number 1 on the ladder and for building a really fun team. This team, I think, is also just really consistent. You know, typically to get to number 1 on the ladder, you need teams that can grind and, win more often than not, obviously. And I think, this team does it really effectively. Eternatus was a Pokemon that going into Series 10 was actually pretty common. I didn't expect it to be so good going into Series 10, but many other players have picked up on it pretty quickly. And it's, nice because it's just really fast, right? You outspeed the majority of Pokemon in the format, bar, say, Regieleki and Calyrex, and Zacian. And you're also able to actually take attacks pretty well. A lot of the fast Pokemon in the format are really frail, but Eternatus, despite being speedy, can actually take hits pretty well. Unlike Calyrex Shadow Rider, for example, you're not often threatened by a one-hit KO from something that's really common in the format. So, as a result, Eternatus can stick around for a while, but can also just one-shot so many Pokemon, or at least deal 50%, right? You have so much good coverage between Dynamax Cannon, Sludge Bomb, and Flamethrower. One of the good things about this Eternatus as well is that it's just really consistent. You look at other restricteds that maybe are a little bit less consistent. We just used Palkia, Groudon's a good example as well, and those Pokemon, their best moves are unreliable because they often can miss, but Eternatus attacks here are all 100% accurate, which is really nice. I think there are multiple ways you can run Eternatus in the format. You can run Meteor Beam with Power Herb, you can run Cosmic Power as well, but this is just a really, strong set that's able to just deal large amounts of damage quickly. So, to support it, you've got 2 means of speed control, the Electro Web from Regieleki as well as the Tailwind from Suicune. These are all both pretty natural sets. One thing to note here is that Suicune does have Protect. That Protect's really valuable because so few players actually run Protect on Suicune, it feels like. So often, I know I fall into the trap of this. I'll double up into Suicune saying, oh yeah, they're going to have Tailwind, Scald, Snarl, Ice Beam, or their Assault Vest, for example. They're not going to be able to protect this, and I get free damage onto that or a switch in. And Suicune is one of those Pokemon that utilizes Protect really well in the sense that it's so bulky that, your opponents will often spend so much effort trying to KO it. So a single Protect can swing a lot of momentum into your favor, and I think that's one really cool, way in team building of taking a Pokemon that's common, that doesn't have Protect, and then just slapping Protect on it, giving you more room to work with. You also don't really need Ice Beam as much on this team. Ice Beam helps out against opposing Landoruses, for example, but with Intimidate from the Lando-T, Amoonguss with potential Spore, you can play around it, and I think the Protect is just really valuable. You also have dual inner focus with both Suicune and Entei, and that's really important in preventing all the potential fake outs, from Incineroar or Rillaboom in the format. Incin is on the majority of teams in Series 10, so having a team that has so many answers into Incin is nice. It's not like Suicune and Entei hard beat the Incineroar. Suicune does really well into it, obviously. But the idea is that it just makes it so much harder for your opponent to lead Incineroar comfortably, and if they do, you can punish it by just getting free damage off or potential speed control, which is really valuable. So, Amoonguss here is Mentor. That's pretty valuable just because a lot of players like using Taunt now. Some Incins actually even carry Taunt as well. So, a single Spore can often swing the momentum so much into your favor. With Amoonguss, there are plenty of good items to run. But yeah, I think Mentor is good here. And then Pollen Puff, really nice for recovery, especially onto things like Suicune and Eternatus. Standard Eternatus set, standard Elecki set. This is actually a special Lando-T, which I really love. I mean, this is basically how people run Landorus-I, often, without Grass Knot. But the value with this is basically, with that Expert Belt, you do a little bit less damage than Lando-T typically, but you have Intimidate. And the Intimidate is just so valuable, right? Because, if you don't have, if you have Lando-I on the team, for example, then you have no Intimidators, and that makes the Zacian matchup and general matchups into physical attackers a little bit harder. And also you have the element of surprise with the special Lando-T set, which is fun. And then finally, Safety Goggles Roar Entei. This is particularly used to beat Xerneas teams that are often going to use Xerneas plus redirection users like Amoonguss and Volcarona, but this is also particularly handy into Trick Room matchups, especially things like Amoonguss plus a Trick Room user, for example. You can, safely completely ignore Amoonguss while also switching out whatever wants the Trick Room, right? So, yeah. Overall, the team is really consistent. As you can see, one thing that lends to a consistent team is not rely on inaccurate attacks, and almost everything on this team is 100% accurate, right? The only exceptions really being Snarl and Electroweb and Sacred Fire, but the accuracies of those I think are still fine. You know, you're not really like venturing into like the 80 to 90 or even below range, and so yeah, I think that is really important when trying to use the team that wants to climb the ladder and get a high ranking, and so yeah, overall I think this is just a really strong, really consistent team that features Eternatus really, really well. Also highlights how good like Suicune and Entei can be in the format as well. So yeah, let's get started with today's episode. Thanks to Wolfie as always for the team question of the day. I want to know what the weirdest set or team you run into in Series 10 up to now has been. For me, it's probably the Shedinja team we played a couple of weeks ago. I think that was when we were using Rayquaza. I don't 100% remember actually, but yeah, that was the team basically designed to get sturdy onto Shedinja and just stall out the game. So that was definitely something I had not expected to see ever, but that's my answer. Let me know yours in the comment section below, and let's get started. All right, getting into things here, and it's a Calyrex Shadow Rider team. Not the matchup I'd like to see. Suicune's going to be by far the most important Pokemon here. Goggles on Entei is also really valuable, so I lean towards looking at Suicune and Entei in this matchup. Expert Belt Lando is kind of neat. If I had Sash on Amoonguss, I think about bringing it. I think it's probably like Regieleki, Eternatus, Suicune, Entei. I'm just trying to figure out in what order. Rillaboom plus Calyrex is probably the lead I'm most afraid of, so I don't mind going Regieleki plus Entei and then Eternatus plus Suicune in the back. I think that's pretty good. Lando's really interesting here because obviously it has that Expert Belt Earth Power into Incin and Expert Belt Sludge Bomb into Rillaboom, but Intimidate just doesn't provide us enough value. If they had a Zacian, for example, or any like physical restricted, I would probably bring the Lando. But because the main Pokemon they're going to play around is that Calyrex, as you'll notice, this team does not have any Ghost resists. And we don't have great Psychic resists either. So Calyrex can just spam its attacks with relative ease. Now Regieleki can drop the Calyrex's speed with Electroweb before it attacks, and then potentially enable one of our Pokemon outspeed. But they have two Fake Out users, so I want to cover for that. They're actually going to go with Amoonguss and Dragonite. Wow. Okay, not the lead I was expecting, but I don't really mind this too much, I think. I mean, you would think Regieleki protects here. Sorry, Amoonguss protects. What is Dragonite gonna do here? Because we have Goggles, like I'm down to Volt Switch Dragonite and Sacred Fire it, because we burn this Dragonite. It's just in such a bad position, and this Entei completely walls Amoonguss right now. So like I would think Amoonguss would want to protect here, even if it doesn't, it's fine. Volt Switch is valuable. We get to conserve the... Are they double protecting, or do they just straight up protect Dragonite, not Amoonguss? That's a crazy play. Okay, kudos to them. But they try to Spore into Entei. Okay, so that worked pretty well. I almost wonder if you don't have Protect. I'm willing to Electroweb here. That breaks a potential Sash and Sacred Fire Amoonguss here. This is probably, I guess, what I should have done last turn, but I think very few play. Oh, they might be Aqua Berry. That play makes so much more sense if you're Aqua Berry. If you're not Aqua, that's just so risky, because like if I double up onto Amoonguss turn 1 and it faints, I feel like you're just in such a bad position. Because you give up a Pokemon for free, and you just revealed Protect. They go for Rage Powder, so this is perfect. I'm just curious about the Dragonite set, but even if it's like Dragon Dance, we're slowing it down with Electroweb here, so that's really good, and that's honestly really solid damage. If it's not Aqua Berry, I'm just amazed at that turn 1 play, but this is where Safety Goggles bails us out. Okay, that looks like Aqua, yeah. Yeah, that makes so much more sense. I was gonna be like, yeah, it's so impressive to, you know, make a read like that if you weren't Aqua or Sashed. Let's see. Okay, they just go for dual Wing Beat. It's fine by me. That's really good damage though, but that's okay. It's because you're Life Orb. That makes sense. Honestly, I don't mind double protecting here to scout out for a protect from either Pokemon, and then also get some more free burn damage onto Amoonguss. Another thing to consider is that Dragonite probably has extreme speed, so Life Orb E-Speed might KO Entei, so we might want to E-Speed first. And we might even want to E-Speed into Amoonguss. This Dragonite lead's actually really good. Yeah, okay, so they just went for Extreme Speed. They target the Entei. And then Spore into the Regieleki slot. That makes sense. So what I could do is actually switch Entei out into Suicune to take the E-Speed. And then Volt Switch. Because they're probably going to Spore the Regieleki slot again. Yeah, I like that. And then that potentially lets me set up a Tailwind the subsequent turn. I guess in this position, if you're my opponent, you could actually E-Speed and Spore the Entei slot. But that's not what they went for last turn. So you can see if we catch them slipping a little bit here. Okay, so there's Extreme Speed. That is such good damage. Oh, that's a crit. That's why. Okay. That's fine. Oh, they go for Rage Powder. Okay. Well, that works for me. The idea is the same here. I get a free switch in now. I'm just nervous that Dual Wing Beat actually KOs us now because of that critical hit. I'll go into Entei here, I think. And with Entei, I can just go for a E-Speed. Honestly, I would actually. I don't think we need. No, we do need to E-Speed in case they E-Speed us and KO us. So I'm down to E-Speed here and get Tailwind up. Because if we get Tailwind up, Eternatus is in a really good position. But yeah, the Aqua on Amoonguss was a nice call. Safety Goggles helps on turn 1, but like... Yeah, and there's a good Protect on Dragonite as well. I wasn't sure about the Dragonite set, but Dragonite's value is that it ignores Intimidate, right? And has Inner Focus, has this Life Orb E-Speed. E-Speed is just higher priority as well, so it's just generally good damage. I guess if you're my opponent, you'd have to respect... Okay, that's a good Amoonguss switch. Into Calyrex? No, it's into Rillaboom. Okay. Rillaboom is scary at this point. Like, we do have Eternatus to deal large amounts of damage, but they have Fake Out Pressure this next turn, and I'm probably losing Entei here. Okay. The amount of priority they have right now is quite concerning, especially because I don't have Ice Beam on Suicune. Yeah, the lack of Ice Beam is actually what really hurts here, I think. It's okay. So we get Tailwind up successfully. I can't bring in a Regieleki because it's just going to get hit by E-Speed plus Glide. The priority right now is actually so strong for my opponent's end. I think this next turn I just protect the Eternatus because I've set up Tailwind now and I have a Regieleki as well. So I think it's fine to just protect Eternatus, sack the Suicune, honestly. I don't really need Suicune. Although I guess by leaving it out, it's bait for one turn. Okay, you know what? I'm actually down to stay in and protect here. Yeah. I just don't know if Life Orb Sludge Bomb one-shots AV Rilla from if they take another you know, grassy terrain activation. It might have been worthwhile just to Scald there to fish for a burn. But I don't want to switch in a Regieleki because then I'm essentially forced to protect the next turn. Okay, they went for Extreme Speed onto Suicune and probably Glide onto it as well. Yeah, so I could have attacked with the Eternatus, but without knowing Dragonite's moveset here, I don't feel confident doing so. Okay. I mean, you would think Dragonite protects here. I've got 2 turns of Tailwind left. It's honestly Rillaboom that I'm more concerned about right now. I'm going to read the Dragonite Protect and Sludge Bomb here and just Scald Dragonite. Okay, they go for Extreme Speed. That's actually totally fine with me, because... Yeah, I'm just wondering if they even have a Dragon-type attack on it, because it could be Fire Punch or, like, Superpower or something, rather than Dragon Claw, which is pretty funny. Let's see if Glide even KOs us. Okay, it does manage to get the knockout. Was a crit that may have mattered. Suicune is really bulky. I'm not sure. Get Sludge Bomb off. Okay, that is a one-hit KO. That's huge. Because I have a Regieleki now. And I don't necessarily need Tailwind because I can just spam Electro Web into whatever attack Eternatus wants to go for. We have Focus Sash as well, which is obviously valuable. I'm mainly nervous about Scarf Calyrex Shadow Rider at this point in the end game. This was a really close game, one way or the other. I think you have to bring out Amoonguss here. But I think Dragonite's basically in Electro Web KO range at this point, right? Last turn of Tailwind. Here, if I were my opponent, I'm protecting Amoonguss and E-speeding Regieleki. But if you do that, I can just Electro Web. I like double protecting here. To bait out a protect. Yeah, because if you do protect... Oh, unless they have Pollen Puff on Amoonguss. I guess I don't... By going for this, I don't respect that option. They stay in. I was nervous about them switching out for more Regenerator. Ideally, one of the two Pokemon protects here. Okay, good. That is good. Oh, everyone tried to protect. Okay. I guess that works for me. Because now I can just go for... Well, I guess it's the same position, actually, in which if you're my opponent, you're just going to E-speed Regieleki, protect Amoonguss. Yeah, I think Electro Web, like Dragonite should faint from Electro Web plus Life Orb, and I'm assuming they E-speed here. It would have been better if we actually just attacked. I'm really surprised they went for a double protect, because if they go for that, like stalling out Tailwind doesn't really matter. They just Rage Powder, okay. So it really comes down to, oh, interesting. Okay, they didn't go. They're going for dual Wing Beat here, which makes sense. But I think we should survive on Eternatus. Oh, unless they actually have a dragon type attack. Even if you do, though, because we're Focus Sash on Regieleki, I would think T-Bolt's a 2-hit KO to Calyrex Shadow Rider. So let's see what Dragonite goes for here. Okay, they actually just go for Superpower. Superpower is smart there. It is a little bit risky because if I actually just get the KO with Electro Web, which I thought I might have, but... I mean, yeah, they had like 10% left, so probably not. Okay, so it comes down to the Calyrex Shadow Rider and what item it has. If it's anything but Choice Scarf, Electro Web into Dynamax Cannon is just a KO. But if it's Scarf, well, the Scarf Expanding Force KO Calyrex Shadow Rider, I guess is, or sorry, KO Eternatus. I also have to hit an Electro Web. Okay, so there's Calyrex. The Dragonite was really impressive. So it was Superpower, E-Speed, Dual Wing Beat, Protect. Yeah, no Dragon type attack, which makes sense because like you don't really need Dragon type attacks in this format that much. So, yep, I'm just going to Dynamax Cannon and Electro Web here. I don't want, like, Life Orb, Astral Barrage to crit. Okay, they're not Scarfed. Beautiful. This is why Regieleki was so important for speed control in this game. I would say Calyrex Shadow Rider is not the ideal matchup for Eternatus, but the main thing you can play around is, like, Calyrexes are just so frail. So Snarl Suicune's really valuable into it, especially because, like, often Calyrex is going to try to substitute. So Calyrex just can't do that much damage to you. But yeah, this was a really close game, and that Dragonite was super, super cool. Amoonguss was a nuisance. Dragonite just put in so much pressure damage-wise. The key thing was getting that free knockout onto Rillaboom. Because Rillaboom plus Dragonite was really... Like, what I wanted to set myself up for was that Electro Web speed drop onto the Calyrex, so that we could outspeed with Eternatus in the late game, right? So I was nervous about conserving Regieleki because they had double priority with E-Speed on Dragonite and the Grassy Glide from the Rillaboom. But fortunately for us, that turn I also feel like they wasted an E-Speed onto Suicune when they doubled up into it, because like it had just activated our Berry and put us at like the same range. But they probably weren't confident in KOing with Grassy Glide. Like I thought we could have even survived from the range that we were at. But then they got the crit. I'm not 100% sure though. But either way, Eternatus just like had super effective damage into so many of the Pokemon there, right? And the only thing it didn't have super effective damage into was the Calyrex, but Dynamax Cannon with Life Orb just does so much. So yeah, a really, really fun game to get started here. Second game of the day, and it's Calyrex Ice Rider team. Okay. That is also not an amazing matchup for Eternatus. It's actually really bad. But we are Min Speed Amoonguss here. The problem is that they have FIni. If I'm my opponent, I would just go Incin, Mimikyu, FIni, Calyrex. But we have Roar on Entei, and they can't fake it out. So I think in this game, we just try to deny Trick Room straight up with Entei. I'm down for that. Okay. What if we go Lando, Entei? It's just like, do we not bring Amoonguss here? I almost want to bring Rillaboom because of Focus Sash. Nah, but I feel like Amoonguss is just like in... is it insurance? It's just because they have FIni, and like I feel like there's no way you don't bring FIni in this matchup because you know I have Amoonguss. If you bring FIni, it just completely invalidates this Pokemon because it's not like redirection helps at all, so... Yeah, I'm actually going to bring Regieleki here. The main reason for this is specifically because I have Roar on Entei and Safety Goggles. Well, actually, Goggles doesn't matter here because they don't have Amoonguss. But with Roar and Inner Focus, even if you lead into Mimikyu, which is the most common lead, you can't stop the Roar on turn 1. And Lando can just exert offensive pressure onto either Pokemon immediately. They go with Calyrex and Regieleki. Alright, not the lead I was expecting. Honestly, I don't mind it too much. My only question here is... like, what do I want to do in this position? Because their Calyrex is obviously in an awkward spot. I really want to just Earth Power and Sacred Fire it, but I don't even know if that's enough for a KO. I mean, I don't have a safe switch it into it. You know what? I am kind of down for that. Even if you protect, at worst, Regieleki gets an attack onto Entei. I say at worst, but that is kind of bad. Okay, maybe I Earth Power Regieleki then. I'm down to Earth Power Regieleki and Roar here. If they protect, that's fine. If you try to Trick Room, great. They do just go for Volt Switch. That's a lot of damage. Yeah, that's not great. I just wasn't confident Earth Power and Sacred Fire picking up the KO there, but perhaps I should have just gone for it anyway. They bring in FIni. Really hoping their Calyrex tries to Trick Room here. I mean, even if they do, though, we're still in a pretty bad spot, I feel like. I just took way too much damage on Entei. Alright, so we get Earth Power, which doesn't really do that. That's actually not bad damage. Okay, they did try to Trick Room. Because the thing is, if I Earth Power Sacred Fire there and Calyrex just sets up Trick Room and has Policy activated, I think I just straight up lose the game from there. So it's not a risk I wanted to take in that position. No, I've got Expert Belt Sludge Bomb. They bring out Lurantis. Got Eternatus in the back. Regieleki as our 4th. This is what I mean though, right? They had FIni, so it's like, what would Amoonguss really contribute to me if I brought it out here? I don't really feel like much. Here I'm kind of down to double Protect to bait out a Protect from their Pokemon. But they might hard switch back out. Okay, they don't switch, which is good. I guess we could have maybe brought Amoonguss and then just try to stall out Misty Terrain, but even then, it's just really awkward. They did not go with the 4 that I expected to, though, I have to say. It's actually a very different composition from what I was expecting. Okay, they Superpower and Muddy Water. Superpower, Muddy Water. Muddy can obviously pick up a double KO here. Superpower would give Lurantis a boost. I don't think Life Orb Sludge Bomb gets the KO onto FIni, and Lurantis being AB here would be pretty likely. And if I KO something, Calyrex just comes in for free. I almost want to not pick up a KO on either here. Maybe I should have just attacked with Lando last turn. I'm doubling up onto Lurantis here because I think it's AV and FIni's more likely to protect. Oh, they switch out, but that's actually fine. That is really fine. Because that's actually, like, Calyrex is the main threat here. So if we hit the Sacred Fire, I think we're in a really good position because you can no longer set up Trick Room. And we hit the Sacred Fire. That's huge. Okay. I really wonder if Earth Power... Yeah, like, they have policy, but it's okay, right? Because now Eternatus just comes in and outspeeds everything. Bar Regieleki, but that's fine. Yeah, Muddy Water double connects, but that's okay. Really hoping for no accuracy drop. That is Spexed. Or a crit. That's Spexed. But it's okay, right? Because I get Aleki and Eternatus out now. And now I know your choice specs. And you don't have a Flamethrower switch in. So I can just Thunderbolt FIni, Flamethrower, Eternatus. Their decision to bring Aleki was really smart, though, honestly. I think if they... Like, I was expecting Incin, Mimi, Cali, FIni. I feel like if they went with those, this would have basically been a done deal. Yeah, I didn't really respect Specs FIni too much in that position, but it's okay, I think. I'm down to just Thunderbolt here, and... The Protect on Calyrex here feels fairly obvious, but they might not even have Protect. Nah, they probably do. But I think T-Ball would KO FIni from this range. At least I really hope so, especially because they're more offensive with choice specs. So at best, you could switch FIni out and protect Calyrex, or stay in with FIni and sack it. Yeah, they're going to switch it. I wanted a T-Bolt Flamethrower double up on that slot, but it's okay, I think, for now. Yeah, okay, and here's the thing, right? If I did that and Calyrex just goes for Glacial Lance, I straight up lose the game, right? So this is a perfect example of a position where like it feels really obvious your opponent's going to protect, but if you try to overread into it and they just straight up attack, I instantly lose the game. So it's like, okay, even if they protect there, well then the next turn I'm still pressuring them, right? The whole idea is preventing them from getting damage off. Even if you protect, you bring in something, but that thing isn't exerting much offensive pressure either. So I would think now you go into your Regieleki, yeah. I mean, Lurantis should be really slow here. You can get a speed drop with the Lecky, which I'm fine with. If I Electro Web your Lurantis, I'd actually give it a speed boost, so we don't necessarily want to do that. We know it's Specs FIni in the back, and Lurantis exert... this is still tricky. I think here I like protecting Aleki and just Sludge Bomb into Lurantis. That conserves my Focus Sash and conserves my speed, so they don't drop it with an Electro Web this turn. Yep, they go for webs. I mean, Lurantis is probably so slow here, I could have just gone for an Electro Web of my own. It comes down to the FIni set. Like, do you have Ice Beam? Okay, yeah, we outspeed. We get the Life Orb Sludge Bomb off. Even if they're AV, I would think this KOs. Okay, good. Okay. Now, here's the thing. I think, even at -1, our Regieleki should outspeed their Tapu FIni. I'm just nervous about them being max speed. But because I protected, at worst, it's a speed tie. I just don't know if, like, FIni's bulky enough to survive here, but... I think their Aleki goes for an Electro Web anyway, so even if I drop FIni speed, I'm not sure Eternatus outspeeds. So I think I'm just going to T-Bolt into FIni here. We know it's Specs, so I'm going to double up into Sludge Bomb, because FIni is the main offensive threat right now, not Aleki. Aleki can't really do very much into Eternatus, and one of the main reasons Eternatus is pretty strong is because most of the common non-restricteds, Rillaboom, Incin, Urshifu, Aleki, I can't really deal that much damage into you, and you can just one-shot almost all of them. So let's see. Best case, okay, is that we move first. That's very good. And hopefully we just KO FIni here. Okay, that should be game over then. Nice. So Specs FIni was surprising. I'm really surprised they switched Lurantis out into Calyrex, because I feel like their best bet at winning, we actually dodged Electro Web, but I don't think that mattered. I think their best bet at winning was basically hoping for me to get a KO and then get a free switch in into your Calyrex, because like the main concern in this game is I didn't think I could KO Calyrex with a double up on anything. Yeah, and that Aleki was definitely Magnet as well, given how much it did to Entei. So it was Magnet Aleki, Specs FIni, probably AV Lurantis, Weakness Policy on Calyrex. Those items aren't super surprising, but yeah. Turn 1 could have played out really poorly, though. If they actually had just gone Glacial Lance instead of Trick Room, I think we probably would have not lost immediately, but it would have been bad. Oh, this is... I was going to say the team looks so familiar. Yeah, this is the Calyrex Ice Rider team we featured a while back. It's been a while since we've used it, which is funny. Yep, this is the exact team. Okay. Yeah, I think the main thing there is basically them giving me the free knockout onto Calyrex, because as soon as Calyrex goes down, I have so much more room to play with, and Calyrex's Glacial Lances are so oppressive against the team that we're using here, right? So just getting a free knockout onto that essentially was really good, and then they also didn't protect, giving me even more momentum to work with. So yeah. That was definitely two scary matchups, honestly. Like, these are not the matchups I love going up against as an Eternatus player, but let these be good examples to show how you can win, even if the restricted you're going up against isn't necessarily, like, the thing you want, like, the best thing you want to see in Team Preview, right? So, yeah, let's look for another one. All right, third game of the day, and it's Zacian. Okay, so... it's Zacian, but, like, I don't feel like I see Tsareena or Garchomp too often on Zacian comp, so that's pretty cool. So what do I want to bring? I think it's probably Lando, Entei, Suicune, and Eternatus, but I don't know. Amoonguss is always so valuable for a potential Spore. All of our Pokemon are actually really solid here, so I'm not sure. Also, if I bring those four, my damage output into their Suicune is really lacking, so I actually feel forced to bring Regieleki almost. If I'm my opponent, Suicune Zacian is a pretty good lead. Instant Suicune, just to guarantee Tailwind is strong. Yeah, their Suicune's actually a really big issue, isn't it? I would lead Suicune if I were them. So I don't want to lead Lando. I think we bring Lando in the back. Instant Suicune or Zacian Suicune are the two leads I'm looking at covering. Suicune, Regieleki, Eternatus. It feels so weird not bringing Entei here, so I don't know. This is a tricky one in Team Preview because, like, all of our Pokemon are good, but I can't see what the clear best four are. And sometimes you're going to run into that issue in Team Preview. It's not always that easy. I feel like the last game is a good example of a game where it was, like, pretty good process of elimination, but here, like, they didn't go with Suicune. They go with Incin and Urshifu, and it's Water Urshifu. Someone commented, by the way, they're like, oh yeah, the character development is when Aaron recognizes the Urshifu form. It doesn't even have to check on turn one. And I've always recognized it, but I just, like, made one blunder. I think it was in the Lunala episode, and after that I was like, might as well just double check it. That was a funny mistake. Anyway, they could fake out Searching Strikes here. Suicune's actually in a really good spot, so that's nice to see. I think we just switch Regieleki out into Eternatus. I don't need a Tailwind yet. I'm actually down to Scald here to buffer my Tailwind by one turn. It also fishes for a burn, and then breaks a potential Focus Sash so that Eternatus can just KO. So yeah, I'm gonna Scald the Urshifu slot here. Breaks a Sash. If we get a burn, that's obviously incredible, but not really counting on it here. The main thing I'm trying to cover for is Fake Out plus Surging Strikes into the Regieleki slot, which is what I would go for. Oh, they're Choice Scarfed. Or sorry, they're not Scarfed, what am I saying? They just didn't Fake Out. If you don't Fake Out there, though, that actually often implies to me that you're Scarfed. This is a good play by them, though. Like, maybe I should have Tailwinded because they might Parting Shot here. Parting Shot is very likely, given how that played out. Oh, they just Blitz. Oh, but the problem? The problem is that we actually might be in Surging Strike's KO range. So, like, I feel like my opponent only makes that play if they're Choice Scarf. Which is very bad. Wow, really didn't expect Eternatus to take that much damage. No burn, but my play was subpar because I didn't cover for Scarf Urshifu. Because if you're not Scarf, then I can very easily just Tailwind here and then Sludge Bomb. And maybe they're not Scarf, but I don't know. I feel like you just don't make that play unless you're Scarfed. Fake Out plus Strikes is so much safer otherwise. Okay. Can I win the game without Eternatus is the question. I'm staying in, but I probably lose. I think they... Oh, they're not Choice Scarfed. What? I mean, then they're definitely Focus Sash, and the explanation is that, like, they didn't mind taking a Fake Out there, but okay, that actually works out really well for us. I mean, that's why, yeah, like, it's like, might as well just stay with the Eternatus, because, like, I was assuming there's Scarf, but, you know, that wasn't confirmed. Now we get Tailwind up, which is really valuable, because our Suicune outspeeds Zacian under Tailwind, and they just Parting Shot. Okay. That is such a good outcome for how bad turn 1 looked. And it actually works out even better, because as a result, now I actually will be able to stagger my, my Intimidate, or sorry, my Tailwind. Okay, that played out a lot better than I expected. I mean, that's basically what I was trying to go for initially. I just didn't think it would actually work based off how the early game started. Okay, so Zacian comes in, that's fine. Like, the thing is now, if you bring in Instant, we just pivot the Eternatus out into Lando. You can't Fake Out into Suicune. Single Scald Burn here basically just wins us the game onto Zacian, and I believe it's 112 speed on Suicune. 114, even faster. Yeah, which is cool. I like that. You speed creep things like typically speed creep Zacian. So I think it's fine to just Scald here. They Parting Shot into Suicune, but Suicune's not really about damage at this point in the game anyway. And we've kind of pinned our opponent here. Their best play would be to protect Zacian and then Parting Shot into the Eternatus slot. That'd actually be a really good play. But I couldn't really cover for that easily, and I'm fine even if they go for that. Because, like, then your Zacian's intimidated, and then you have to switch the Rillaboom out. Or, sorry, the Instant out. They just go for Fake Out, perfect. Okay, if we get a burn here with Scald, I honestly think the game's just over. It's going to be very difficult for my opponent to come back. No burn, unfortunately. Okay. That will allow them to get Substitute up. Yeah, I mean, 30% chance to just win the game at that moment, I think is a pretty good odd. Pretty good odds, so we'll take it. What do I think their last one is the question. I'm down to just Scald and Earth Power the Instant slot. The problem is that a Scald isn't breaking sub on Zacian there. The upside of Suicune is that it's pretty bulky and that we've intimidated Zacian, and it's pretty rare to run sub and Swords Dance. So, for example, if Zacian protects here, we're in an amazing position. Even if they don't protect, it's fine. It's a question of whether or not a neutral Behemoth Blade would one-shot Landorus. If it does, things get a little bit dicier, but then I can just bring out Regieleki. And yeah, they correctly don't protect, which I think is the right play. Nice, Earth Power actually just one-shots with that Expert Belt. Beautiful. Cool. Crit here would be really nice, because then we just break the sub and then put it in KO range. No crit, that's okay. Yeah, and they just Behemoth Blade. Okay, so the question is whether or not you KO here, but even if you do, I bring in Regieleki and I can Electro Web. Nice, Landorus survives. Beautiful. And that makes sense, right? I mean, if you're using Lando T, this scenario is exactly what you would want to EV for. Garchomp is their last one. Okay, so unfortunately for us here, we don't have Ice Beam on Suicune. If we did, this would really be a wrap. I think I'm actually willing to Scald into Zacian here. I guess I'm a little bit nervous about Swords Dance on this thing. We've got Regieleki in the back, but I can't hit Garchomp with that at all. I want to get another Tailwind up, ideally. So, like, here what I want to do is Scald Zacian and protect Lando. You know what? I don't know if I love that play, because Zacian can just sub up on me next turn. There's Scarf with Rock Slide. Okay, I generally don't mind seeing that, because we can't flinch with Suicune because of Inner Focus. And now you've locked yourself into Rock Slide, so you just don't do very much damage. I'm probably getting hit by a Sacred Sword. Okay, or Play Rough, yeah. How much does that do? In total, they did what, like 125 damage that turn? So we'll survive another double up, potentially. It actually comes down to damage rolls, maybe. That's scary. Okay, I'm gonna Tailwind and switch out into Regieleki here. Maybe I should have just... If I just gave up the Lando there, then Regieleki would just come in. Like, they could still definitely win, especially if they get a high damage roll on the Suicune here, which is really scary. Okay, so Rock Slide is going to connect. Can't flinch, at least. They crit a Lecky, that's fine. I'd rather have the crit go there. There's play rough again. Okay, nice. We survive. Huge. And this is really big because we know the Garchomp is scarfed, right? Meaning I'll just want... So I think here just Scalding into this... Well, actually, we don't really need to Scald into it, right? Because Dynamax Cannon is just going to one-shot this thing. So I'm actually even down to just Scald and Volt Switch into Zacian. Because even if you protect Zacian... yeah. Even if you protect Zacian, Rock Slide will get the knockout onto the Suicune. And then now I just get the free switch in into the Eternatus, and Dynamax Cannon just one-shots your Garchomp. Yeah. Unless you crit again. Okay, they didn't crit again. Phew. These games have already really been super strong, super good. Like, we have so low HP on everything, but it's just enough HP to win the game, I think. Okay. I could also Flamethrower into Zacian, but if you're my opponent, your win con is going for a double protect. Because Dynamax Cannon here should one-shot the Garchomp. We have 2 turns of Tailwind left, and Alecki is also naturally going to outspeed. So we can also Volt Switch here. And the thing about Zacian is that it's really strong, but it can only target one Pokemon at a time. Now here, they didn't opt to go for a double protect. T-Bolt might have actually just KO'd there, but I wasn't 100% sure. And I like the idea of pivoting for an Intimidate here, although I guess Intimidate doesn't really matter. So maybe T-Bolt was just better. I guess my only concern here is if for some reason Scarf Garchomp outspeeds Eternatus under Tailwind. And if it does, that's where the Intimidate does come in handy. But yeah, we just outspeed. Okay, beautiful. So this should one-shot, and now there's no way Zacian can clean up the game. Like, yeah, everything's really low, but it's... You still have to, you know, take 3 turns to pick up 3 knockouts, essentially. Scarf Garchomp's really cool, though. It's really handy, especially into, like, Volcarona. Well, I guess you don't necessarily need to be Scarfed. Trying to think, like, what the best... Like, what does Scarf Garchomp counter, exactly? I wouldn't be surprised if it has a Dark-type attack for Calyrex Shadow Rider, just to completely surprise it. So we could have just T-Bolted there. T-Bolting is probably fine as well, but like I said, I think there's not really much they can do. Because Dynamax Cannon always is just a guaranteed knockout. We know Garchomp can't protect. So these games were all really, really close. You know, we can just T-Bolt and Earth Power. The key thing in this game was getting up 2 Tailwinds. That was really essential. Because we needed speed control, right? Like, Scarf Garchomp plus Zacian is just so fast. And also, like, Garchomp completely covers for Regieleki, which is scary. But this is often the downside of having a late-game Scarf user when you haven't knocked out enough of your opponent's Pokemon. And, like, if Landorus was KO'd and, like, you know, Zacian had a sub-up, then maybe you could get away with just spamming Earthquake in the endgame rather than locking into Rock Slide. But in that position, they basically had to lock into Rock Slide because you can't Earthquake, otherwise you just KO your own Zacian. And you can't go for a single target attack, it feels like. You really need spread damage in that position. Although I guess if they had Dragon Claw, maybe Dragon Claw Play Rough ×2 was enough to knock out the Suicune. So, yeah. These were all some really, really fun games. Like, and ultimately, I feel like... we got to highlight a lot of the strength of the team, right? Like, this game was all about the Lando-T, being able to one-shot that Incineroar, being able to intimidate the Zacian, be able to survive, and then Suicune also enabling us with that Tailwind. That second game, for example, the Entei put in so much work. Having that Roar as well as the Inner Focus, you know, allowed us to play with a lot of confidence on turn 1 of that game, or yeah, turn 1 of that game. Although, once again, I think if they just went for Glacial Lance, things could have played out really ugly. So, yeah, I'm really glad they didn't. And then the first game was, you know, definitely pretty intense as well. But, you know, Sash-Alecki with Electro Web, just such good speed control to really enable Eternatus. And Eternatus just hits for so much damage, right? The thing about this Pokemon is that it's relatively bulky. You know, we did face a lot of Pokemon that threatened us with super effective damage, so we kind of had to dance around those, but we were able to do so with relative effectiveness, which was good. And then Suicune itself is just such a bulky Pokemon. I think one thing I really like about this team in particular is that it has dual inner focus on Suicune and Entei. So as a result, you can't get flinched nearly as easily. And so much of this format is about cycling fake outs, often from Pokemon like Rillaboom or Incineroar, for example. And so to be able to negate those is really, really nice and allows you to play with more confidence. So yeah, I feel like all the Pokemon definitely put in some work, you know, throughout the day, which was really cool. Did we bring out Amoonguss today? We didn't really get to use that, but you know, Amoonguss is pretty standard for the most part. Everything else, especially like the fun sets, came up huge. And I think one thing that I really like about the Suicune here is that it does have Protect. So many Suicunes carry Ice Beam over Protect. That, I guess, would have helped out in the Garchomp scenario, although we were at -1, so I don't think Ice Beam would actually one-shot Garchomp anyway. And Protect is generally valuable. I don't think it like came up huge for us today, but it's nice because so often people will double up into Suicune thinking that you don't have Protect, and so that bypasses a lot of pressure that, you know, normally people try to like make thinking it's a safe play, and you get to punish them for not expecting Protect. So yeah, that was a really fun set of games. Once again, thanks so much to Wolfie for the team. Details linked in the description below, courtesy of him. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Don't forget to answer the question of the day, and I'll see you all soon. All right, peace.